if your husband claims he was bound and gagged in another room? How would his smartwatch show 2 hours of continuous movement up and down the stairs at the exact time his wife was being killed? That single question unraveled everything. On May 11, 2021, an emergency call was made to a police station in Greece. The man on the phone told the operator that robbers had broken into his home and killed his wife. What followed shocked the entire country and sparked protests in the streets. Caroline was born in Liverpool, England, in 2001. By everyone who knew her, she was described as warm, sweet, and full of energy. She had been involved in sports since childhood and even earned a black belt in kickboxing. In 2009, at 8 years old, she moved to Greece with her father and settled in a small town called Glykinera, just outside Athens, where Caroline built a life and made friends over the years. When she was 15, Caroline met a Greek man named Babis Anagnostopoulos, 13 years her senior. They fell in love, and 3 years later Babis proposed. In 2018, they got married and continued living in Glykinera, in one of the more prestigious parts of town. Caroline studied at university while managing the household. Babis worked as a commercial airline pilot. In 2020, they had a baby girl named Lydia. According to Caroline's family, she embraced motherhood completely. She spent every moment she could with her daughter. Then, in 2021, she fulfilled a long-held dream and adopted a 2-month-old husky puppy from a shelter, naming her Roxy. During the pandemic, the couple traveled to Dubai for a luxury break. From the outside, their life looked stable, even enviable. Everything seemed fine, but something was about to go very wrong. On the morning of May 11, 2021, at around 6 a.m., police received a call from the couple's home. What officers found when they arrived stopped them cold. Caroline's body was hanging from the staircase railing, suspended by a dog leash. The house was in complete disarray. Then they heard a baby crying. In the master bedroom, they found Caroline's lifeless body on the bed, and 11-month-old Lydia beside her, trying to wake her mother up. Upon examining the body, officers found visible strangulation marks on Caroline's neck. Cause of death appeared to be asphyxiation. Babis was alive. He told police that around 5 a.m., 3 armed robbers had broken in, demanded money, and tied him up in a separate room with rope and tape. He said he heard Caroline screaming from the other room, then silence. He believed she had pulled a robber's mask off and was killed to keep her quiet. He said he lost consciousness from shock, and when he came to, the robbers were gone, still bound and gagged. Babis worked his phone free through a small gap in the tape and used his nose to dial a neighbor. The neighbor came over, freed him, and Babis called the POLICEA neighbor, who was later questioned. Told police they had heard noise coming from the house that night. They had even heard the dog barking, but hadn't thought it was worth reporting. Police found that around 13,000 euros in cash and jewelry worth approximately 20,000 euros had been taken. Babis told officers the cash had been set aside to pay construction workers, and that the robbers must have known in advance that large amounts of money were kept in the home. He claimed they spoke Bulgarian or Albanian and that he had briefly seen one of their faces, enough, he believed, to identify the man in a lineup. Investigators found an open basement window and theorized the robbers had entered there, waiting inside for the right moment. But one detail stood out immediately. The interior security cameras had been turned off. Before the robbery, the exterior cameras were still running. Whoever did this had known exactly where every camera was and how to disable them. A few days before the attack, a nearby elderly couple had also been robbed in their home. No one was killed. Police began considering whether the same group was behind both incidents. 2 days later, the autopsy confirmed Caroline had died from strangulation. DNA from under her fingernails returned no usable results. She was buried the following day. Babis stood by Caroline's parents throughout the process. He gave media interviews, breaking down on camera at one point, saying he would have to raise Lydia alone, without her mother. Many people from the town attended the funeral. The community was frightened. Everyone understood that a dangerous criminal group appeared to be operating in the area, and no one felt safe. The lead detective theorized the perpetrators might be part of an organized Eastern European crime network and compiled a list of 13 suspects. Among them were Albanian nationals with prior robbery convictions, who had recently been released from prison and could no longer be located, as well as a Bulgarian man detained on document fraud charges. The Bulgarian was linked to a nearby robbery of an elderly couple, but no evidence connected him to Caroline's death. Then, detectives noticed something that genuinely changed the direction of the investigation. The alleged robbers had left behind absolutely no physical evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, no forensic trace of any kind. That was not normal. And the detectives started asking a very different question. Inside the home, investigators found Caroline's personal diary. She had recently discovered Babis was having an affair. After sessions with her therapist, she had decided to leave him and take Lydia with her. Shortly before her death, Caroline's therapist received a message from Caroline's phone saying she wanted to stop her sessions. The therapist found this completely out of character. The detective believed Babis had sent it to cut off someone who knew too much. Police seized Caroline's phone. On the night of the crime, at around 12:30 a.m., she had searched for hotel rooms, suggesting she wanted to leave that night after an argument. This aligned with the theory that Babis had attacked her following a confrontation, not a robbery. Then came the evidence that closed the case. Detectives examined both smartwatches. Caroline showed her heart rate dropped to 0 at approximately 3 a.m., 2 hours before Babis claimed the attack happened, and Babis's own watch recorded continuous movement up and down the stairs for roughly 2 hours, directly contradicting his claim that he was lying bound in another room. The detective's conclusion: Babis had staged the entire scene. He killed Caroline, then spent 2 hours walking through the house creating the appearance of a robbery, scattering belongings, removing valuables, tying himself up. He had disabled the interior cameras in advance, and before police arrived. To make the scene more convincing, he hanged Roxy from the staircase. If this case means something to you, a like helps more people find it. 30-8 days after Caroline's death, the detective called Babis and, under the pretense of identifying suspects in a lineup, there were no suspects. It was a strategy to get him in a room. The interrogation lasted 8 hours. At the end of it, Babis confessed. He immediately tried to soften it. He said he had been holding Caroline in bed, that she had rolled face down into the pillow, and that he had fallen into a deep sleep without noticing she wasn't breathing. The detective didn't believe it. Caroline's watch had recorded a sharp spike in heart rate just before it flatlined, consistent with a violent struggle, not with drifting off to sleep. When that story failed, he changed it again, claiming he had been defending himself and Lydia from Caroline, and that her kickboxing skills made her a physical threat. Everyone who had known Caroline rejected this completely. Her therapist, her neighbors, her family, all of them described the same person, a devoted, gentle mother. Babis was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He was also charged with animal cruelty, the first case prosecuted under a 2020 Greek law criminalizing the illegal killing of animals. One of his own defense attorneys withdrew and refused to represent him. He was transferred to Korydallos prison in Athens, widely considered one of the harshest facilities in Europe. His legal team planned to argue the killing was accidental and that Caroline had provoked him. The trial was scheduled for 2022. As of the time this video was made, a final verdict has not been publicly confirmed. When there is an update, it will be covered here.